Hey everyone, back with Dr. Sara Gottfried. And Sara, when we finished chatting last, we were talking about how we need to have, obviously there's universal truths, like obviously all eyeglasses that are effective work basically the same way, but I can't take my glasses off, put them on your face, and expect them to work. There's some level of individual variation. Now, I'm curious what your thoughts, because it seems like the more someone actually knows about nutrition and neurobiology and endocrinology, the less sure they are about anything other than basically saying non-starchy vegetables, nutrient-dense protein, whole food fats, and low fructose fruits are good for you. Like, other than that, they're like, well, it kind of depends. But it's the people that are these draconian, like, this always works for everyone, that seem to get the most headlines. But it seems like, to think that, they must not really understand everything.
Well, I would agree with that. I mean, I think it's completely confusing, the amount of conflicting information out there. You know, if you get 100 nutritionists in the room and you ask a question, eggs, yes or no, you know, you're going to get 100 opinions. 50 are going to say yes, 50 are going to say no. It's just incredibly confusing for the consumer. So I hope that we can simplify things starting today, Jonathan. How do you simplify? How do you, like, individualize and make this make more sense?
Well, one of the simplifications, Sara, is I think just how do we know who to trust? And a rule of thumb I've seen, because this seems true in a lot of areas of life, when an area of life has a lot of nuance, if you find someone that says the only way that works is X, that person is probably wrong.
Right.
So
smells like dogma to me.
Exactly. So, I mean, I think, but that's one very clear rule we can all use, is it's very attractive to jump on to these groups or bandwagons that seem so certain. But I think in areas like this, in areas like nutrition, neurobiology, endocrinology, genetic variants, that anyone who claims certainty is really someone who's just waving a flag around that says, I don't actually know what I'm talking about.
I think that's true. I think that's true. You know, if I think of the people who I really listen to, besides you, Jonathan, because I always listen to you, I think about people like, I'm just looking at these books that I have here, like Joel Fuhrman. I'm a big fan of Joel Fuhrman. Gary Taubes. Like, I think he is excellent at really looking at the evidence and saying, you know what, that whole thing that we've been buying for the past 20, 25 years, that fat is the problem, it's BS. Like, it's refined carbohydrates that we need to get out of our food plan. So I agree. I think that when you start to say, this is the only way, you need to be very suspicious of that. When you have someone who says, here's the evidence, and here's what I believe based on the evidence, which is what I really hear from Gary Taubes, I listen to that, and I agree with his synthesis.
Well, and so, Sara, both of those people, actually, those are two of my favorite influencers in this entire arena. I've had the pleasure to speak and work with both. And like Joel, for example, Joel had the courage to write an article that said something along the lines of, you don't need to be a vegetarian to get the health benefits of being a vegetarian, or something like that. And just to even write that was so risky for him, because people are so quick to just be like, oh, vegetarian, yes, or low carb, yes. But if you look at what Joel does, Joel just says, bottom line, let's create criteria by which we should evaluate food. If we can agree on that criteria, we can kind of end this debate. And I think in so much of this nutrition conversation, there is no agreed upon criteria by the people who are debating. Therefore, there will never be a resolution, because if you and I aren't on the same page of what makes a food healthy in the first place, how could we ever agree?
I think that's true. I think we should do a whole session just on Joel Fuhrman so that people can understand that further. You know, his Andy index that he uses to define the nutrient density of foods, I think, is very powerful. And it's a reminder on a daily basis that you need to eat your greens, kale, dandelion greens, chard. Like, it should be at the top of the list, as it is at the top of his Andy list. So let's do another session on him. I think that would be really helpful for people.
Sara, let's just do that next. Let us celebrate Dr. Joel Fuhrman and all his nutrient glory. Folks, we will be back, and we are just going to talk about how awesome Jill Fuhrman is.